Hi, welcome to Buzz and Bark. My name is Patricia, and today I'm going to do like a full on Reiki session because I feel that the world needs more awareness, mindfulness, and if you've been visiting my Metaphysics for Everyday Living, I'll leave the link below. I have articles there about mindfulness, and I didn't know that I was actually writing about mindfulness. I mean, I got into it more after seeing the Walk for Peace monks and following them and getting into that. But I actually was talking about mindfulness maybe even 3 years ago. And then it's just been, I channel. So when I'm writing articles, when I'm doing a video, a lot of times I'm either formally channeling, like directly channeling, or I'm just letting things through as a vessel. So as a Reiki practitioner, I am a vessel. I'm a vessel of light. I'm a vessel of energy. That energy can be translated into light language. It can be interpreted as the universal life force, which is the Reiki, or it can come through as words. And so I've been writing all these articles on mindfulness because when I was studying Reiki back in 2020, I was also doing animal communication at the same time. And the general theme for both of those was mindfulness, because you have to be in a state of awareness. You have to be in the present moment to do Reiki and also to do animal communication. And I have like such a crazy monkey mind, which is a lot of people will say that about themselves, but I don't know if they've been inside my brain, or haven't been inside their brain either. So, but my brain is just insane. Like, so much stuff coming in. And then because I've been channeling spirits for a long time, I've had to sort of start closing doors because I would get a lot of spirits coming through and I wouldn't ask them to introduce themselves, right? And they would just start talking. And so half the time I don't know what is my own thoughts, what is the collective, what is spirit guides, and I've become more aware. And so today I want to bring us into this state of awareness because we all have a lot of different, and I'm not talking schizophrenia here. We all have a lot of different voices in our heads. And those voices could be coming from people we've known that are telepathically communicating with us without our permission. Or it could be old thought forms that come from what other people told you, especially if they repeated the same thing over and over again, i.e. teachers, parents, authority figures. When you keep hearing the same thing over and over again, you start believing it, whether it's true and authentic for you or not. And so because we have like all this stuff going on, we got traffic jams in our head. How do we clear that, right? How do we clear that so that we can hear what we need to hear? So whether it's our spirit guides, our higher self, Buddha consciousness, Christ consciousness, whatever it is, I'm hearing Krishna consciousness for some people. So whatever it is that we need to hear, how are we supposed to hear it when we've got a bunch of like thoughts that are just sort of jamming the way? And the other part of this is mindfulness helps us to bond with nature. That's such a given, right? It's like duh. But when you can go into a state of presence and a state of awareness, then you are able to tap into your telepathy, for one thing, and also to clear away anything that's not helping you. Right? You can also ask your spirit guides or Buddha or whoever it is to clear your path so that you can hear only what you need to hear and speak what you need to speak, right? And that does mean slowing down. I'm pretty speedy myself, trying to do multitasking and not doing that so much anymore. Since I started listening to a lot of Dhamma teachings and stuff, I've really slowed down a lot. And it helps because I know that when I was trying to do a bunch of things at once, or I was just frantic, I was actually just revving up my nervous system and creating fight or flight and all kinds of unhealthy symptoms in my body. And the mindfulness is what I got into to heal my body. And it's actually doing a lot for my mind and for my animal communication practice and also my Reiki practice. So I have a bunch of instruments here. I'm not going to bring the crystals out because, I have some crystals here, but they're on the seed of life. Yeah, it's the seed. Is this the seed of life? I think this is the seed of life. It's either the flower of life or the seed of life. I get the two of them mixed up. Anyways, it's a grid. And I have a rose quartz, blue apatite, Lemurian quartz, white quartz or snowy quartz, and I have merlinite on there. I also brought my makeshift pendulum. I didn't want to spend a bunch of money on pendulums because they're kind of expensive. So I just use a necklace, and I can get yes or no's, and I use this to see which chakras are blocked. And because I don't have anybody here physically with me, I can either use myself or I can use my surrogate stuffed toy here. And the intention is that I'll know which chakras I need to work on the most to do some clearing so that we can have more awareness, because the other thing besides having a monkey mind is having blocked chakras or blocked meridians. Now, as I said in my last Reiki video that I did last week, Reiki practitioners are automatically working on the meridians. Now, we may not know what the meridians are, right? Unless we're doing Qigong or Tai Chi or Chinese medicine, or, reflexology or something where you have to know the meridians. So we have like a general idea of the meridians, like people who do like emotional freedom technique tapping, the teachers of that would usually know some of the meridians. But when you put your hands on the hand positions for Reiki, you're automatically connecting with whatever meridians go through those areas. So you are working with meridians when you go and have a Reiki treatment, or when you give a Reiki treatment, you are working with meridians, but you're mainly also working with the chakras. Now, Mikao Usui, the founder of Reiki, never talked about chakras as far as I know. Chakras comes more from India, but as the Reiki practices have morphed, especially in the West, with a lot of Eastern traditions kind of coming and melding into a soup, the energy centers, because they did, the energy centers do align actually with the hand positions that the original Reiki masters came up with. So I don't know who it was, but somebody within the Reiki lineages decided that they were going to bring in the chakras. And I actually think it's a good idea, but I don't think that, I don't remember Usui, like the stuff that I learned about him, I don't remember him saying anything about chakras. But and I don't even know if he's the one who came up with the hand positions. I'm not sure if it was him or if it was his student, which was Hayashi. Hayashi was the second in the lineage. Usui founded the idea of Reiki. He actually was going to a monastery, a Zen Buddhist monastery, and he was wanting to download a healing modality. And so he was meditating intensely, because that's what you do when you go to a monastery. You meditate intensely. I don't know if it was a silent retreat or what it was. But anyways, he had this vision, this light came, it flooded through him like this powerful light. And that was the Reiki Universal Life Force. So the story is that after he left the monastery, he was going down a hill, or maybe down a mountain, because he was up in a mountain. And he hurt his toe. I don't know if he broke his toe or twisted his toe, but anyways, he hurt his toe. And he put his palms of his hands and, his hands around the toe, and it healed immediately. And then he came up with these ideas, this how to treat with Reiki. And I don't know if because I have to go back and look at the history of Reiki, because there's so much information when I was learning, and it just gets kind of like scrambled. But it was either him or Hayashi came up with the hand positions. He might have come up with some hand positions, and then it was refined with his, the students that came after him, or the masters that came after him. And also, in today's world, anybody can become a Reiki master. And you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars like you would have, say, in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, whatever. It used to be that when Madame Takata, she was the third in the lineage of the Usui tradition. She was actually a Japanese American living in Hawaii, and she went to Japan, and she was trained by Hayashi, and Hayashi, of course, was the disciple of Usui. And Usui died about 4 years into him teaching. Like, he brought it, I think it was 2022, and he died in 2026, I believe. But he died in the 1920s. And then his tradition, and then Hayashi died tragically. He was an officer, or he was a medical doctor, but he was an officer in the Japanese military. And I guess he was asked to go to war or something, and he ended up committing noble suicide or honorable suicide because he was not able to do that. And so then the only one of the three that was left was Madame Takata, and then she brought Reiki to the United States and she changed it drastically. I don't know if I agree with a lot of what she did, but she did keep the lineage going. And it used to be that if you wanted to be a Reiki master, you had to train at the first level for a pretty long time, and then the second level for a long time, and then the third level, which is the master level. Very few did it because it was actually incredibly expensive to learn Reiki. So even in the 1980s and 1990s, when I first heard about Reiki, I was living in Seattle and people would go to these workshops and they would learn how to do Reiki. And I wanted to do it, but I didn't have the money. It was expensive. I mean, it was, if it wasn't hundreds of dollars, then it was, I don't know, maybe $1,000 for, all three levels. But nowadays, you can learn it online. There's so many different ways. If you know somebody who's a Reiki master or a Reiki master, they can actually teach you and attune you. They don't even have to charge you. Like if they're a friend of yours or something, because we're now at this stage where we need more people, boots on the ground thing. We need more people doing Reiki on the planet. And if teachers are charging thousands or hundreds of dollars, then it's harder for people to get in the door, right? It's harder for people to learn it. So you can even attune your pets. You can attune your house plants. You can attune your garden. You can attune the earth. I mean, well, the earth doesn't need attuning, but I mean, you can attune anything. And for humans, yes, we need to be trained, and then we get attuned after we, have there's a lot of ethics and practices and things that you have to learn before you get attuned. And you also have to sort of clear out your vessel again of all those negative influences and programming, and there's a whole detox period you go through, and it's usually after you get attuned where you just go through like a flu-like time where you feel really sick. Some people have the physical symptoms, some people have the emotional. I had emotional purging. I didn't get the flu-like symptoms. I was worried that I was going to get the flu-like symptoms because everybody else was talking about it. But I got just major emotional detox, and then my life was completely transformed. I ended up in Vermont. I had no plans of going to Vermont, and then I learned Reiki and I learned animal communication. The next thing I know, I'm in Vermont. So, and I'm back in Washington State. So Reiki can definitely bring huge changes if you decide to go that route. But if you're already a Reiki master, thank you, or for your Reiki even level 1, thank you for doing it because it's really important. Reiki does not follow any religion. It is associated with Zen Buddhism, but you could have any religion, or non-religion. You don't have to be even spiritual to do Reiki. Reiki it does have spiritual components if you want that, but it is spiritual in the sense that you're bringing in the universal life force, which is a God energy, right? The life force of all things. That brings healing and it brings miracles and things. But Reiki is not a medical practice, and that is something, so when I am doing these Reiki, especially in a general way like this, it is not prescribing, treating, or diagnosing an illness. It will be adjunct to whatever else you're doing, and a Reiki practitioner is not really even, ethically or even legally, in some cases, permitted to ever say that they can replace medical treatment. So the medical treatment can be holistic. It doesn't have to be conventional. But if you, we always say, if you or your pets have any health concerns, then please, see the appropriate medical licensed professional and, whatever that is for you. But Reiki will not replace that. And so Reiki also works on the state of mind, but it doesn't replace mental health counseling. It can bring you more peace, but if you have, PTSD or depression or all these other things, you do still need to see a mental health counselor. And now they even have mental health coaches and things like that. But make sure they're licensed and they have a background in psychology, because otherwise anybody can call themselves a coach, right? And they can just say, well, in my situation, this is what happened to me, and now I'm going to share, what I happened. But if they don't have a medical background, then they shouldn't be practicing medicine, even if they did heal themselves. So that's just how I feel about it. Okay, so remember to like, subscribe, and share, and help me build this channel. It sounds like a cliche, but I really mean it. And again, I'm going to be using a surrogate And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start off with, I already cleansed the space and I've already got the helpers here and things like that. And so I'm calling on your helpers and my helpers, you know, spirit guides or whatever, so that we can all work in collaboration for anybody who's watching this video, you know, at any point. And I'm gonna start with this shaker, and I'm gonna do it way over here because it's really loud. And I'm basically, I'm cleaning out any distortions or energies that are going to interfere. And then I'm going to do what this one woman does on YouTube. I'm going to bring in a triple shield for the whole collective. And especially for myself, because I'm making myself vulnerable doing the Reiki. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use this pendulum, which is basically a ruby. I think it's like a raw ruby, maybe it's a polished ruby, I'm not sure. But anyways, it's a ruby stone. And I'm going to use it to see which chakras we're going to need to work on for both. And so I'm going to do the animal chakras and the human chakras. So we don't have tails. They do, you know, and they have feet chakras. We actually have feet chakras too. And they have ear chakras, and they also have one that's right here that we don't have, that's like by the shoulder. And so I'm going to do a run on all of these. And the yes that it's cleared is going to be, this is a yes. And then a no is when it doesn't move at all. And then if it's doing this, like it's going completely crazy, that means we have too much energy in a chakra. And I'm doing this universally, like collectively. And if it's going really slow, it could be that there's movement in the chakra, but it's sluggish. And so I'm going to do this at the beginning, and hopefully I'll remember to do this at the end. And the other thing I'm going to do before I get started is I'm going to do the metta prayer. It comes from Buddhism, because right now it's quiet, but there's been a lot of like military jets. And military jets are, well, they're part of the war machine, right? I mean, if you want it, I mean, that's just what it is. I know some people don't want to admit it, but that's what they are. And so war happens because of suffering, and everybody suffers, right? The people who go to war, the people who fly the planes, the people who support them. I mean, the people that are, you know, under siege, and then of course taxpayers, and just everybody is affected. All the animals, all the nature, everything is affected, and it creates suffering. So I'm going to do the metta prayer for all beings, including the military jet pilots and everybody, you know, that's part of that. Because what's happening here where I live ends up going to places like Iran or Venezuela or wherever they send them. And I am not pro-war. So I could not be a Reiki master and be pro-war. It would be, I think, out of alignment. So, but I'm also not pro-hatred. So, I'll just wait for that to finish. So that means even though I get upset about, you know, the military and things like that, I don't hate them. They're human just like the rest of us, and there is obviously some level of suffering going on because you can't do what many people do without there being some kind of suffering, and that suffering could be of any kind. Like, I'm not even going to get into it. So the metta prayer goes like this, in case you don't know it. May all beings be awakened. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe and protected. May all beings be loved and connected. And may all beings be free from suffering. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And sadhu just means thank you. And I believe it's the Pali language, which is the original Buddhist language. So now I'm going to use our little surrogate. We're going to see which chakras we need to work on. And I'm going to start with, I'm not going to do all the feet separately. I'm going to do all the feet together. And so do we need to balance or activate or clear? Okay, wait a minute. Are the feet chakra flowing? Yes. Okay, so our feet chakras are flowing. And you might want to press the soles of your feet if you're sitting, or if you're in a position where you can press your feet into the ground, that would be great. And take some deep breaths. Okay, so that one's good. Let's try the tail, and I'm going to combine the tail and the root together. Okay, the tail and the root's doing pretty good. So we're feeling pretty secure right now. And safe. Well, that's good. Okay, so then the next one is the sacral. That one's not doing very well. Okay, that's kind of sloppy. Yeah, so the sacral we're going to work on. Okay, solar plexus. And that's not doing so well either. Okay, what about the heart? That one's getting a little bit stronger. It started out weak though. Throat. Okay. So right now what I'm seeing as being not completely blocked but sluggish are the sacral, the solar plexus, and the throat. And there was another healer that had the same ones come up. Okay, let's try the third eye. That one's okay. So we're seeing clearly, and we've got discernment going on. Okay, crown chakra. That one's okay. Ears. Are we hearing okay? Yeah. The umbilical point for the animals. That one's good. Okay. So my emphasis on this healing that I'm going to be doing is it's going to be on the throat, the sacral, and the solar plexus. Now the throat chakra is how we communicate. And ideally, we want to communicate from a place of love and also discernment. Like we want to be, like what are we saying? Is it mindful? Because a lot of times we'll just go, just say whatever, like what is it? Vocal diarrhea or something where you just run from the mouth. And that's kind of a gross image. But do we just want to spout our opinions? And I'm notorious. I've done that. Or do we want to use more thoughtfulness? Like before we talk, can we pause? Can we reflect? Do we have to say something right away? Or if we get upset by something somebody says, can we just like back off and breathe? Get ourselves back into the center? Because what happens when we're upset is, I think it's there's a part of the brain, it's the frontal cortex, right? It's kind of how we, this is kind of more rational. It's also how we use language, I believe. I might be wrong on that. But that shuts down when we're upset. So when we're in fight or flight, which can be anger or, any strong emotion, this shuts down and we're going to say a bunch of garbage. And so we want that to come back on board, right? So if you feel like you're in an unsafe place or whatever, then you got to move yourself out of the way, right? It could just be in the moment that you're unsafe or whatever. You need to move yourself out of the way, take some deep breaths, and get your frontal, neocortex or whatever it's called. You want to get that back online, because then you're going to be more rational and you're going to be able to speak from a place of compassion and not just run off at the mouth and then just say a bunch of sharp words and hurt somebody because they hurt you. And so you want to, learn about the different parts of the brain. I'm going to have to put this on pause for a sec. There's an airplane coming. Well, I can still hear the plane a little bit, but I can't wait forever. Okay, so I'm going to start with the singing bowl. And even though our crown chakra is in pretty good shape, I'm going to actually I'm going to start with the crown chakra here. And I'm using this stuffed animal that I named Madison. It's a red panda. I'm using this as a surrogate, and a surrogate basically is when I'm doing remote or distance Reiki, I'm actually sending the Reiki through this surrogate to whoever is requesting it. Now, if you don't want Reiki, you can cross your arms or your legs, and if your animals want Reiki, they will stay present. They may go in another room and still receive it, because again, it's distance Reiki. Remember to breathe. Okay, we'll do the third eye and the eyes. Okay. Now, I want to know what's blocking the throat chakra, or why it's sluggish. And I am removing, I'm sorry if this is loud, I am removing any distortions or negative, words, unexpressed emotions, sort of removing those. Okay, so I'm getting energy that has been stuck in the throats of animals and the throats of humans since 2020, and we all know what was going on during that time. And we can release all that unexpressed emotions that wasn't considered appropriate at the time for whatever reason, or words that you wanted to say, thoughts you wanted to express that you didn't get to express without fear or being chastised or whatever it was, because there was such a division going on, especially more in 2021. And so we're going all the way back to 2020 up till now, and we're releasing all those blocks. And I'm asking my Reiki guides, including Asui Master, Asui the Master, Master Asui, to take these blocks that are being released, which is just garbage, and put it into the light and dissolve it. And then to replace it with the Reiki Universal Life Force. So that we can get some flow going in the throat. So let's see how that has worked so far. See if we can get this. Well, that's pretty good, actually. Okay. Looks like we unblocked that. That's a lot of stuff, actually. So you might find, or you might find that your pets might be more vocally expressive for the next 24 to 48 hours, or you might be more vocally expressive because all of a sudden the dam is broken, right? But be mindful of what you're saying to yourself and to others. And also forgiveness is very important. Okay. So we've cleared the throat. Okay, so now I'm going to do I'm gonna do the heart like this. Okay, the heart is asking us to forgive. Okay, there's a lot of pain that happens in the last several years of people cutting each other out of their lives, sometimes appropriately, sometimes just out of anger, and a lot of just wanting freedom and cutting people out because of that. And to be able to make amends for that doesn't mean you need to go back to those people, but you do need to do some kind of forgiveness work, and that could be the Ho'oponopono prayer or whatever type of forgiveness work you do. It's really important that we do that because there's a lot of really just yucky energy in people's heart chakras. A lot of pain, a lot of disappointment. Oh, shoot. Okay, I kind of like to just sort of brush that energy out. I wouldn't do that on a person or an animal, but since this is a surrogate, I'm going to just, what I would do for an animal or human is I'd actually just stick my hands up above like this and just sweep. So I'm sweeping all that energy out of the throat and the heart. Okay, so the other one we had blocks in is the solar plexus. And it's not really even that we have a block, it's just that the solar plexus is moving very sluggish. And the solar plexus is just bright yellow. So I want you could even do gold, like platinum or something. But I want you to just picture that around your belly button, like a big circle of just bright yellow, right? And make it like the sun and make it super strong. Because what we want to do is we want to burn away anything that is blocking our free will. And there's a lot of that, I think, even if you don't watch the news, even if you don't really know what's going on in the world, other people know what's going on in the world. And because we're just a collective soup of energy, if you're in a store or you go somewhere, you walk down a street and someone's been listening to the news and they're like, that energy is in the air and you're not picking it up directly, but you're influenced by it. And so that can affect the solar plexus or the crown. But in this case, it's solar plexus. Solar plexus is where we feel courageous, right? It's very Aries-like. And it's very Leo-like. And it has like a boldness. And so we need to be not arrogant. We need to be confident. If we're arrogant, then we have too much energy going in the wrong way, in the solar plexus. We want to be courageous. We want to be bold. Again, with the throat chakra in conjunction with the solar plexus, we want to be able to speak our truth, but we want to do it with using the heart compassion. And so I am going to focus on the solar plexus. It's kind of in the belly button, in the belly area. And so I'm going to send some Reiki so that we can release whatever is making us to feel too vulnerable or fearful, not in the sense of losing finances or security, not that sort of thing, not the safety root chakra. It's more of being in the spotlight, right? Being afraid to be seen. Or animals can become kind of fearful as well in their solar plexus, and they can become overly defensive, and it could look like they're being aggressive. But if you were to talk to a dog trainer, they would, or behaviorist, they would tell you there is a difference between an animal having anxiety and fear and being defensive, or that they're just aggressive. A lot of times we mistake the fear and the anxiety for aggression. And so that's all part of the solar plexus and also the root chakra. And so we're going to clear that energy now, however that is going to show up. And we're bringing in courage. And integrity. Okay, let's just brush that out. Okay, and now we're going to do the sacral chakra. And we also had some issues there. This is... Okay, the sacral chakra is about creativity, intimacy. It does have sexuality involved with it. It does involve it is in the area of the sexual organs, at least for, I believe it's women, and then I think men is more the root chakra, if I can remember correctly. And it is... Okay, so it's creativity that's being blocked. And how does that show up in animals? Because animals aren't necessarily artists, right? They're not like, making creativity. When we think of creative, we think of creating things. Well, for them, it's reproduction. So they're creating a new life. That's what creativity would be for animals. Or problem solving. So they can be very creative, and like certain animals are really good at problem solving. Okay, so... Okay, so for animals who have been spayed or neutered, if you don't explain to them what you're doing with an animal communicator, or you just talk to them directly and explain, they don't know what's going on, right? And that's part of their life force. And now I'm not saying don't spay and neuter your pets. However, if you're going to do it, you want to do it, you can also do actually vasectomies on animals. I saw that for dogs. So you're not actually removing, or you might be removing something. And then there's tube tying for the female animals. So you don't actually have to remove the ovaries and all the rest of that. Well, that is our creative force, right? That is our creativity, whether we're having offspring or not. And there can be blockages that can happen when an animal is spayed or neutered. And so I am going to release those blockages. I mean, they'll still be spayed or neutered, but they'll at least have whatever trauma has occurred. Like you thinking, well, how can that be traumatic? Well, it is, because you're one way one moment, and then you go to a vet, and then you get put under in anesthesia, and then you wake up and you're not the same being that you were when you went to sleep. And we can all pick up subconsciously what's going on during surgery. So depending on what's going on during the surgery, and then they're put in a cage, and they have some cone on their heads, all these different things that happen. It's very traumatic for them. Like, it sounds like a simple thing. Oh, well, I'm just going to go have, that's if they're having the surgery. Now, I know that there's vans and stuff and like these things where you just take your animal in. I'm not. They have to put them down. I mean, they have to not put them down. They have to give them some kind of anesthesia, because that would be very painful otherwise, right? So, and the vet would get bitten. So there is all these things that happen for, that we take for granted, and we're not looking at it from their point of view. Like, we're looking at it from the human point of view, which is fine because we're humans. And we don't want overbreeding because that leads to cruelty, right? Because if you have too many animals, then they get put down, or things get overcrowding, or things can get out of hand. And so there's reasons for doing it, which is the rational thing, but animals aren't necessarily rational. So they're very emotional, they're sentient. And we're all sentient, but they're so like feeling, right? They feel, and they have I pick up that animals just feel real deeply. And they can think, just like we can, but I think they go with the feeling first and then the thought second. Whereas we tend to get caught up in our heads more in the thought process. So for humans, the sacral chakra is everything that I said. It's the creativity, the intimacy, the sexuality, and all the rest of that. Now, so we're clearing any blockages in those areas for however it shows up. And again, this is not medical. So if you have medical situation or psychological situation, please get the appropriate help, either for you or your pet, whoever needs it. Okay, so let's clear, or let's rebalance that sacral chakra. Okay, I'm also clearing the thoughts that we as humans have when we get our animal either neutered or spayed. And any guilt we might feel, any pressure we might feel, any anger we might feel, or we might feel ashamed because we waited a long time and maybe there was some puppies that were unwanted, or kittens, or something goes wrong, right? So we're releasing all of that too. And there's other things related to humans, but I'm not going to say it out loud, but I think you'll know what it means. Okay, I'm replacing with unconditional love and peace and calm and self-confidence for both the solar plexus and the sacral. Okay, so the last one I'm going to do, and I'm going to combine the root, the tail, and the feet, and any chakra that I haven't done already. I'm just going to combine them all because they were already in balance anyways. Okay. And we're going to remove anything that didn't get removed. And then we're going to bring in that beautiful, calm, and peaceful energy. I think the surrogate, even though it's a stuffed animal. So take some deep breaths. I'm going to run this over my grid. I'm going to end the session with some flute and a singing bowl. I'm closing this session now. May the Reiki continue to flow where it's needed for highest and best. I'm releasing all the guides helping us, yours and mine, and sealing the space once again so that you're able to hold on to this energy if you so choose. Okay, so I'm going to run this pendulum over the chakras and we'll see like how strong our chakras are, our energy is right now. Okay, let's start with the crown. Okay, that's feeling pretty solid. Okay, the ears, good. Third eye. Well, it's a little excessive, but it's still good. Throat, much better. Heart, solar plexus, sacral, root, and feet. Okay, so what was it, the crown? Yeah, we may still have some distorted thoughts coming in, and if you do see those coming, don't like fight with them. Just thank them and send them on their way, because they're already leaving, but they're still lingering a little bit. Okay, so that is the session. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Also, I have on Substack, I have Talk to Animals, which you might want to check out. And it has a Maine Coon Cat, a Border Collie, a German Shorthair Pointer, and Secretariat the racehorse. And they're all in spirit. And I basically channel them. And it's funny sometimes. Other times it's just really incredibly esoteric and spiritual. And they talk about what animals want from humans, which is interesting to me. And then if you go to Metaphysics for Everyday Living, it is now free to read all the articles. I got rid of the paywalls, except you do have to subscribe, except to watch any of these videos, which the YouTube videos, which you can watch here or you can watch on Metaphysics for Everyday Living. And if you want to support this work, I will leave a PayPal link below. Otherwise, have a wonderful week bonding with your pet. I'm actually going to be doing an online silent retreat tomorrow, which is why I'm doing this video early. So have a beautiful day. Bye and blessings, and may you all be free from suffering.